Hello, 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 everybody. Michelle Holling-Brooks here, creator of the Sacred Witness Oracle and the founder of Unbridled Change. And we are with the group card draw for February of 2026. And coming into this month, there are a lot of big energies and shifts and what I call shaking of hands happening. Astrologically, happening collectively amongst us, and as above, so below. So when these energies are up as that psychic undercurrent in weather, so to speak, it means it's activating and bringing that forward within us. We can either try to resist the waves or we can learn to surf with them and actually bring them in and let them help carry us, just like riding that wave in and out, to find that internally within us, and then also to help support within that kind of collective. And so what wanted to come forward this month as we're kind of moving in is I just want to share a little bit about what is that weather. So what is the energy that you might be feeling and experiencing, and how then can you best use that? So we are at that quote ending time frame, that last kind of crescendo, so to speak, as we're closing out one lunar year, and opening up to a new lunar year, so to speak. And in the Chinese zodiac, it has different archetypes and especially animals associated and elements with those as well. Just like there might be in numerology, we went from a 9 year in 2025 to a 1 year in 2026. So there are different archetypes, whether that's through numerology, the animals, other things like that, that kind of come in that help ground it and give form to some of these energies that you might be feeling. The lunar one for the Chinese zodiac was moving from the snake, and allowing ourselves to move into the horse. And there's elements associated with each one, water to fire as well. And so we are in that last little bit of the snake energy going all the way up until February 16th, because of the 17th, depending on where you're at in the world, is when it kind of shakes hands and transitions from one to the other. And the snake energy really invites us into one, recognizing what is the skin that has held us? What is the way in which we have moved and interacted with the world? Where have we been able to engage, make choices, and be with? And what needs to be transformed? So just like the 9 energy asks us to kind of take a bigger viewpoint of understanding how the ripples fit together, understanding how we're connected, understanding where we are restricting ourselves, and ultimately remembering that the divisions within us are just illusions. They aren't really there. And so as we divide ourselves externally or divide ourselves internally, we're actually working against holism. And when we do that internally or externally, we are outside of balance, we're outside of health, we're outside of wellness, we're outside of being able to support each other and to give and to receive. And ultimately, the health of the organism, whether that's ourselves or the whole, goes down, right? And so the 9 energy comes in and helps remember us to say, hey, can we transcend these illusions of how we compartmentalize, we cut ourselves off, we feel at odds, we're threatened, and can we start to lovingly see how we can give to each other, support each other? It's in numerology or in the Enneagram world, it's often associated with the peacekeeper, the ability to really honor the beautiful gifts of each other and see how together each of our individual gifts support each other. Internally, what does that look like? That looks like us being able to honor the different versions of us. Think of a version of you when you were maybe at a different time frame of your life. What were some of the gifts of that version of you? Also, in the interest of wholeness, what were some of the kind of working edges of you, and how did those protective mechanisms or ways in which you saw yourself really limit yourself or box you in didn't really serve? Where did they come from? That's the energy of the 9. It lets us see some of the beauty that we've forgotten, and bring it forward. It lets us see also where some restrictions and old labels and ways of being are holding us and withholding us, so that we can lovingly tend to them, release them, and allow ourselves to come back together again in wholeness. So the idea of this last little bit of energy with snake, it's asking us to really look at where we have those divisions, where we have those restrictions. You can hear it kind of in my voice, just getting kind of tight, where we feel that our expression has been stifled, we've been cut off from our heart. We go all head, all logical or belief systems of the past, and how that then cuts us off from here. There is collectively a lot of energy up right now where you can see both. You can see where we are restricted. You can see where we have old skins that are absolutely no longer serving anymore. And you can also see where there is beautiful peace and light and this new skin that's emerging of this transformation that wants to come forward. And in the Lunar New Year for the Chinese zodiac, that is the fire horse. In numerology, that's the one energy that we're already kind of in. So mixing those together, it starts to say, what can we bring freedom to? What can we give permission to start to run, to give expression to catch, quote, fire, to ignite the passion of one little heart space to another, to another. Think of like how fire grows and works together. Fire energy is tricky. We can start to get really self-serving with it. We can get like territorial with it. We can start to believe our own kind of flickering internal ideas that maybe are cut off from the whole. And so that's part of the energy that is up right now for us to really get awareness of, so that when we move into that energy, we're starting off in a more balanced place, then instead of feeding some of those ways that we can kind of dig ourselves in to individuation to the point where we are dividing ourselves even more. And so that's the energy that was really coming forward as I was sitting in for this month, is like, how do we help look at, identify, and both free up the light that wants to be sparked within us, and then also be kind of aware of where some of those tendencies within ourselves, within our family of origin, our habits, our old belief systems and collective ways of being that are really trying to hem us in, and keeping us from being able to express, to live, to create, to dance, to connect, to really bring that fire energy and that horse energy in a way that's balanced and healthy and in connection, in union. Because yes, it's about the individual, but it's about, I think of that Aquarian energy of that energy from the water bearer. It's like, how can my beautiful essence funnel through me as the vessel, and pour into the collective, right? So it's not to hold it within me just for me or just to take. It's like, no, can we become our full self so that we feed that into the collective? And I love that image of the water bearer. And that's what each one of us is up to. And to me, that's a healthy one. A healthy one constructs that vessel so that they can channel and flow and be in that, like, let me be of joyful service, as my spiritual director's her favorite words, and I absolutely love it. And so that we can be in that joyful service, both receiving and giving, in a way that we feel connected and whole, and also really in a healthy way, satisfied with how we're showing up who we are as we're showing up and how we are supporting the whole in that collective. And that will keep us out of that unhealthy one, which can be a little bit problematic, or a shadow fire horse, which is I'm doing what I want and I don't care what earth I scorch in the process as I'm running through doing what feels good to me. Either one of those shadowy sides are a little problematic. Look anywhere in the world right now, and you can see, unfortunately, that at play. And again, as above, so below. So our job is to work with that inside of ourselves so that when we come into the collective, we're helping other people realize that that's there too. They can feel that frequency and that vibrational shift within us. And then we're willing to empower other people, we're willing to lift them up. And it just breaks those chains all over the place. Okay, so just take a moment, take a nice, beautiful, deep breath in and out. Again, this month we, in the beautiful Sacred Witness Circle, for those of you that are following along, we are cultivating that ability to be that sacred witness, that safe place for ourselves and for each other, that place of healing and attuned connection, the place in which we recognize where the past is controlling us and where we actively are saying we want to, Maya Angelou, know better, do better. We want to help free up our system to feel like that horse that can play and be in connection and community. We want to shed those skins, and we are in that commitment for ourselves and for each other. So what would be helpful to help guide us to look at, to explore, and to be with? And what wanted to come forward, is a bit of a spread. So I'm going to pull the first card. And in the guidebook, oh, by the way, if we're a backer for a Kickstarter, all the orders are in. They are being picked right now. The kits are being boxed and connected, and they should start to be going out on the beginning of the first of February 9th. Some of the first orders should start going out, and then they'll just keep working through. We have a lot of orders because you guys are amazing. So it'll take us maybe like a week or 2 weeks to get through all the orders. But so that should be going out, and I'll be sending out a notice here shortly on that. And then, so I have instructions in here of how to do spreads and all that good stuff. So the first card that wants to come forward is going to be our anchor card. What is it overall throughout this month that if we can focus on building this skill, we will be able to see and to witness when we're in those different areas of what we're up to. And the first card is card number 4. It sits in the Sacred Witness section of the deck. And you can tell that because it has a little owl up there. So each section of the deck has a different icon or totem that grounds it. And the owl represents the sacred witness in this deck. And this represents the first stage of developing the sacred witness energy, which is the ability to have discernment and clean observation with that observer self. And if you just take a look at this one, you'll notice that this is the most human card that exists in the deck, because nature on its own doesn't quite do this. Nature on its own already observes pretty clearly. So I needed to come up with an image that represented what happens with us with the different divisions that we have, the different beliefs. They literally change the way we see. And so you can see that sometimes it's just a little distortion coming in. Sometimes it's really making it so if you didn't know what you were looking at, you would start to make up stories of what that is. And then down to really our beliefs and our experiences are clouding our perceptions to the point where we cannot see. So anything that we say is on the other side of this pain is a sheer projection of what we want it to be, what we think it is, which might or might not be accurate. This one, in theory, we could have some accuracy, but it's still going to be pretty distorted. Ideally, this is what we're doing with the sacred witness. As we learn to observe and sort, we move from one pain to the next, and then ultimately we get to the one that's pretty clear. That we have that ability to have clean discernment. And what I love about what this card comes forward is it acknowledges that the reality is we have all four of these different levels of perception happening within us at any given time. To think that we're only going to be up here is naive. And it honestly sets us up for really feeling like a failure. And so this card invites us into remembering that this is a practice. And the more and more we're willing to sit with it, like the little guy sitting up there, the more we're willing to commit to it, the quicker and easier we'll notice when we have a distortion that's happening. So this is the first card, the anchor card, which means how can we get to the place where we can start to notice the difference and move through our system, wiping away, understanding, clearing out the pains so that we can get to that clear perspective. How can we do that? The next card is going to represent looking, quote, back into where are the distortions lying? Where are they at? And what one has come forward for this one is two cards, both the Karmic Wheel, which again sits in the Sacred Witness section, so the overall major arcana for the deck. And I'm going to talk about the Karmic Wheel here in a second. And then these are just the ripples that are out there. And then the other card that wanted to be with this one too was the Release card. So that sits in the mental being. And the icon is the wolf. The ability to work with the wolf within. And this card brings in the energies of dandelion and dragonfly, and it's representing that true cycle that comes at the end of snake, which is once we have reflected and we've seen and we've witnessed and we've tended to, we are asked to release, not just transition. And those are two different words. Yeah, I'm going to pull the last card from the thing, and then I'll dive into the invitation for that one. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so this card is a little bit shadowy because it's supposed to represent the shadow. And so it is the shadow side of self-sabotage, and it walks with the metaphor and the archetypal pattern of the tall poppy. So I will get to this one when we get there of what this card is. And so the third card in the spread represents if we can add in this perspective, it helps us be able to transcend where we get stuck here, and then we can come back here. I don't know how else to hold all these at the same time with what we're working with. Okay, so let's dive into the Karmic Wheel that came first. So in this particular one, tarot has its own and other stuff like that. The interpretation that came forward for this deck, as far as how does the Sacred Witness work with the Karmic Wheel, is that it is the representation of how our past has cause and effect. It's not got an attachment to what is, quote, right or wrong or good or bad. It's just like this action equals these like cause and effect items, and they just are what they are. And if you want to stop the cause and effect wheel, you need to start another ripple and start another ripple. Otherwise, if you don't stop one and say, I'm no longer making that choice, I'm actively holding up a seawall that keeps that ripple from coming in. And I'm starting to build traction on a new karmic wheel, a new cause and effect. The other one just keeps going infinitely, responding and doing its thing. So when this card comes forward, it asks us to be aware of where are the old choices that some part of us made that maybe was the best choice we could make at that time. Where are those choices just still running, like little ripples, and that are impacting other choices? And sometimes if they have a lot of momentum they'll override it because it doesn't have enough momentum in the other ripples. So you can see where some of them are disrupting and some of them are overriding. That's the easiest way to say the karmic wheel. Take out all the good, the bad. Oh, it's bad karma, bad juju, like whatever. The universe is trying to balance itself out from good versus evil. It's just like what will serve and what won't. Because when we go into kind of that, what I used to go into quite often, worked really hard to shift my thing, is from that, like that idea of like, oh, karma will get them. Yeah, that is just me wanting vengeance. That's me wanting somebody to feel what I felt and to get run over by a ripple. And so really having to, one of the things that this card asks us to do is become very real of where we do have a desire to keep those psychic free radicals of conflict, of domination, of control, of vengeance, of trying to balance the scale. Like, where do we have an active part of us that's projecting that? And how can we let ourselves, this is the hard part, release, bring forgiveness to it and say, you know what, if I keep letting that karmic weight influence me, want it to be that way, can I free myself from even that version of a shadow illusion of what karma is, and can I bring it into a cleaner sense? This is what the sacred witness is really asking us to do, of like, hey, this is a cause and effect, and if I really want to start to follow the ripples, whatever drove that person to do what they do didn't start with them, and then didn't start with the person, their ancestor, and didn't start with their community. But at some point, somebody's got to be willing to say, stop. Somebody's got to be willing to say, I don't want to move that way. I don't want to think that way. I don't want to feel that way. The program of that wheel needs to. And that's why I wanted to have water representing this card, because water as a element represents our memory. It represents the program within us, and it ultimately represents our mind and our thought and the way we perceive things. Because like this glass, if that water is really bogged down with toxic beliefs and ways of seeing things based out of fear, there's no way to get to this pain. So we've got to be willing to clean it and to release it. What I love about the release card, it's come forward a couple times now for us, I think, in the different ones. And this card reminds us that releasing isn't just death. It's allowing ourselves to grow and be guided and be to follow that way of being planted in a new way of being. These are seeds that are going off to be planted in a new spot. They're trusting the air and the wind to come in and help guide it, give them inspiration, that the seed itself might not know where it's going, but when we release and we surrender, we are able to be guided, we're able to start anew, and we're able to grow with new things. And so when we stop one ripple and we release it, something new wants to come in. However, there's a little bit of a piece in there, which is that our system is designed, our protective system is designed to keep us safe at all costs. That's its only allegiance. It doesn't have an allegiance to what we personally want. It doesn't have an allegiance to what serves the highest good and benefit. It doesn't have an allegiance to what our soul and our heart might be saying. It just has an allegiance to how can I keep you safe? And it doesn't have the luxury of leaning in and trusting the air that's carrying us, because it doesn't always feel that it can see where it's going to land. Therefore, it doesn't know what it's going to do. It doesn't know how to prepare you. And so it says, let's stay on the seed head. Let's stay small. So here's a little story for this card. And it's in the guidebook too. is that the story of the tall poppy is that the poppies themselves learned to only grow a certain height. Because in the poppy fields, if any poppy grew to its full potential, if it was like, oh, this is the way I want to grow, and this is the direction I want to grow, see the one that's reaching for the sky? And then there's all the other poppies down here. It's like every time any poppy said, oh, I'm going to grow to my fullest potential, the farmer came and would chop it down because it liked the uniform look of the poppies. It wanted everything to be the same. It wanted everything to be aesthetically pleasing. The farmer wanted it to look the way the farmer wanted it to, not the way each poppy was designed to be. And so eventually the poppies learned genetically to stop growing above a certain height. And they just stayed the same because if they let themselves grow, they got chopped off. So the metaphor for this on us is for self-sabotage is we do the same thing. We have a bunch of parts of us that have learned to keep ourselves small, have learned to just conform, have learned to just go along to get along, have learned to just abandon self and sit back down. Never when we get that little inspiration that says, reach towards that sky, find and grow in the way that you want to, express and be and live and all of that good stuff. We have a part of us that just goes, oh, remember, that's not safe. You will literally get chopped off. And so shrink, go in. And to bring into the saboteur, this always archetypally will come up anytime we are about to move from being small to growing. It will always show up. It's archetypal and it's a beautiful moment. We can get really excited about it because it means we're about ready to break free. But we need to answer 3 questions in order to do it. Are we willing to be responsible for helping to hold ourselves to that standard once we do it? Are we willing to let go of our attachment to what the other thinks and from the level of the control it has over us? And are we willing to trust that the seed is going to get planted where it's supposed to be planted? And the support that we need will be there if we're just willing to let go of that seed head and fall. Right? So I love that this card is a part of this for us because this is really that energy of the fire horse. It's like, be willing to like catch fire, let your soul guide you, and be willing to be in that liberty and that freedom and in that dance and in that playfulness to grow tall. And that's what this year really has in store for it. If personally and collectively, if we're willing to start to challenge the status quo, lovingly identify and release without anger, without judging, without shadow anger. Some things we should have. Anger is a messenger for violations of boundaries that should be there, internally and externally. So we want to allow that to transition us to what then do we need to release? What do we need to stop because it is no longer okay internally and externally? And then how are we willing to allow ourselves to see clearly? Because all of this depends on, are we willing to start to observe without self-judgment, what's the word? Degrading ourselves when we see an old pattern, or shaming ourselves. Instead, can we just be like, wow, we need to release that need for blame. Let me come at this through the lens of the sacred witness, which is, can we just clean it up? Can we tend to the parts of us that need to be tended to and welcome in the direction of the soul? So this is the reading for this month. As you're working with it, I'd love to hear how that starts to ripple out, pun intended on that one, and how that starts to clear up that runway to really allow ourselves to shed some of these stubborn scales that we're like, but that is how I was protected. And the image, the last image that really wants to come forward is the snake needed that skin. It's how it interacted with the world, kept it safe as a protective layer. It made it so it could move around and do, but if it holds it, if it keeps it, even a part of it, the new growth that's naturally a part of that snake's journey, the height that the poppy wants to get to, it just can't get there. And so it's sometimes super raw and uncomfortable to let down some of these last scales. But when we do, the freedom that we feel is just so amazing. So I'm really excited to see how this works this month and to be with you on this journey. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Offering you light, love, and joy, and I will see you in all the different spaces.